Hello, hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Top Bin 90 podcast. We are back from Orlando after a loss. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight, but tonight I've got two of the best men in MLS. I've got Mr. Brian Bamauer Media. How are you today?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Glad to be back. Obviously, not the preferred result, but we keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on. And we also have Mr. not Sean Kingston, but Sean, how are you tonight?
Sean, short-term memory. I am excited for tomorrow. I'm not thinking about last weekend.
Well, unfortunately, we'll be discussing last weekend in Orlando. So we'll be touching on a couple of things. We'll be touching on the 2-0 loss, obviously, against Orlando. We're going to talk about this Pep BL red card, right? Because I was at Dean Smith's presser yesterday, and he was not happy at all with this decision. We'll talk a little bit of some tactical changes that maybe Charlotte can make going into this match. Caleb and Lee, we had a great chat on his show about it as well. So there's some things that he mentioned that I really liked, especially Caleb. Um, Maybe in heading into this game too, and obviously we'll spend a good portion of this episode talking about this very, very crucial home match, right? Because if we don't win, right, we're done. The season is over. No more now. We'll have more podcasts, but you know we're headed into to tough territory, right? And so let's get into it a little bit. Obviously, Charlotte FC with a 2-0 loss this weekend in Orlando, right? The team started a bit timid. It felt like through this match, and they just didn't grow into this game. We spoke with Dean Smith for a little bit right after the match, and he mentioned at halftime that the guys just he had to tell them, you guys need to go out there and play and have some fun,
Yep.
right? So to me, that means that the team felt some sort of pressure heading into this match in Orlando, and it was felt. So I'll start off with you, Brian. Talk to me about what you saw at this match.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that was one of the key points I had brought up in our show before the game as well. Is just they should go out and have fun in this one because for me, it wasn't a do or die match. It was for Orlando because it's their home game. They needed to come away with the result there before going on the road and coming, traveling to Charlotte. So for me, this game felt like an opportunity for Charlotte to just go and be themselves. And if they get the result, they get the result, and then they're really on the front foot. But they did not seem to play like that at all. And props to Orlando, they came out swinging really fast. I mean, within the first 5 minutes, they had like 9 players in and around the box. They pushed Rafael Santos and Dagger Dantor Halson super high in from the fullback position, way high. They for the first like 10 or 15 minutes tagged from both Dagger Dan and Facundo Torres just over and over again in these like 2v1 scenarios early on. So they just really pushed the needle and just enforced their will on the game for the first 30 minutes. And Charlotte did not have a and Dean really struggled to find. I feel like even a response in the second half. I mean, his halftime talk of play with more fun. It seemed like they did enjoy themselves a little bit more in the second half, but the game was wrapped up pretty quickly by Orlando because they also found a way to kind of counter and just keep putting numbers forward. Lots of firepower. It seemed like they would score, and then Pareja would add more reinforcements in the attack. I mean, his ability to just sub out strikers is pretty ridiculous. Like he's got so many starting strikers up top, whether it's Enrique who started, but then after that Duncan McGuire, and then after that Muriel. It's just like he could keep just. I described it as unloading the clip. Like he was just able to just throw an arsenal of just attackers at him. So Charlotte's definitely gonna have to figure out a way to mitigate that. Not having a slow start, I think, is the key.
Yeah, I mean, I saw you put out those passes that Facundo Torres had
Yeah.
in that first half, right?
Yeah,
And I mean, there was so much on that right side and so much within that final third of the
yep,
game, right? And so we
yeah,
talked about, how important DPs and U22s and important players are.
yep,
And he's definitely top scorer for them, and he came through,
yeah.
right? And so, Sean, what did you make of the game?
I think one point, scared money don't make money. We played way too timid. We played
Yeah.
way too real. Like we were scared. I think the lights got to us. I mean, you've seen it in our big games before where we kind of come out and we don't really live up to the moment, which this year we beat that moment with finally winning a home opener. So that's why I'm hopeful for this weekend. But we were tired, and their game plan was simple. I mean, they'd seen that Tim Ream is a little slow on the outside, and they went after him. And I mean, granted, Tim, he played fairly well for the game plan being against him. But we weren't taking the opportunities we had in recent games where we were making that pass that might be questionable. We were scared to do it because we didn't want to lose the ball. And it ended up we would hold for too long. The pressure would get to us. We'd make a bad decision. And we try to turn things around, but sometimes it's a little too late.
Yeah, talk to me about uncharacteristically. I mean, Malanda has been phenomenal for this whole season.
Yeah.
Didn't look great,
Yeah.
in Orlando. Pep BL, which we'll touch in a little bit more in depth with him here in a bit. But, he's been a key player for us and wasn't for a long portions of that match, right? It was very outside of, Kalina, who, if he doesn't win MLS goalkeeper of the year, bro, we riot, but outside of him, the whole team was off.
Yeah.
And, you couldn't point to maybe 2 or 3 players to try to get us back into this game.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to Orlando's success early on. They pushed numbers so far forward. Biel and Abada were pushed back, disconnected then from Karol Swiderski, who was left on an island for most of that game. Not Karol Swiderski's strong suit to be left on an island with 2 center backs. Not really a great way for him to get involved in the game. He was literally his involvement. He had 4 successful passes and 1 shot. He was completely just a non-factor in this game. So not being able to get him involved in the attack was a big issue. And I think part of that was just how deep Biel and Abada had to play to kind of help defensively because of the onslaught that Orlando was putting forward, just to keep up with their numbers. And I think that was, for me, that was really going to be one of the keys. Rafael Santos, also on the left in the second half, was able to start becoming a distributor. Araujo as well. Cesar Araujo, their center midfielder, was also, he had 92% pass completion. That was a key for me. Can you get him to not, get uncomfortable? That was one of my my matchups. I was hoping Bronico could get a little bit more just physical and disruptive with him and his play specifically. That's why him and Urso are both out there. Can they disrupt Araujo in the middle? So they weren't able to do that. Their distributors were able to get the ball forward the whole game and really just push Charlotte back. And I feel like that's where the disconnection really started. Once you're on the back foot, not able to kind of connect and get close to your attacking threat, you couldn't move the ball forward. And then on top of that, they were just also passing poorly. Their just distribution was lacking. Dean Smith mentioned that as well. Just their on the ball presence wasn't quite there. And that doesn't really come down to tactics. That just, you came out and just kind of had a rough game on the ball. And so that's something that has to be fixed. You can't not have control of the game at home in this situation. Is a do or die. So you got to find a way to get control of the game and find a way to progress the ball forward and not leave. If you have Karol starting, he can't be left on an island like that.
Yeah, 100%. Even when you saw Patrick come in, he had that header, right?
Mhm.
And so, it'll be very interesting to see, now that, okay, let's just go dive right
Yeah.
into that red card, right?
Yeah.
And so, I kind of want to play it for you guys one time, right? To be able to see if, you agree that this was a red card. So we'll get those thoughts right after I play it. So, what do you guys make of that? Obviously, so we played it in slow-mo and it looks bad. When you play it in real time, it doesn't really help it that much either, And so, I know Dean was very, very unhappy about this red card. But actually, before we do that, let's hear from Dean himself as well.
Cool.
The news this morning that the appeal failed, so Pep Biel will be missing for the game. I have no idea how it failed, but for some strange reason it did.
What was the explanation you got back from the league?
I don't need an explanation. I've asked them not to send the rationale behind it because I've seen the incidents, I've seen the referee's report, and the video evidence contradicts the referee's report. We put that in our appeal. I think they spoke about a kick in action. I have no idea how if your foot is connected to somebody else's foot, you can kick someone. I think it's physically impossible if your foot is connected. But they come up with that decision, and I felt that it was going that way. I felt that we were being pushed, that that maybe we shouldn't appeal it. And I think if we had Harry Potter as a member of the Charlotte FC team, putting that appeal forward, I think would have had problems getting him off. So unfortunately, it's missing, and it's a problem for our club because this is the biggest game in our history.
The biggest game in Charlotte FC histories. Dean Smith is 100% committed to this not being a red card from the get-go. I mean, he even joked saying that he had to look up, the definition of clear and obvious in English because he thought it might be different in the U.S. than it is in England. So obviously, he definitely didn't think this was a red card, and so I want your thoughts, and I'll start off with you, Sean.
I love that he has his players back. That's just awesome. I mean, love that guy. Great coach. We lucked out there. Coach of the year. My thing is, in that pivotal time in the playoffs at the end of a game, to give an immediate red instead of going yellow and reviewing. I think it was immediate red, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. To go instead of yellow and reviewing, I think you go yellow and review there. And if you really feel it afterwards, you give the second yellow, or you go straight. You give the second red. You put the yellow away. Give the red out. I don't know. It could have gone both ways. If it had happened to Orlando, I'd be sitting here going definite red card, no doubt about it. But it happened to us, and it happened to a player at the end of a game in a time that didn't need to happen on. A lot of it goes on Pep for just making a really, as my dad would call it, a bonehead move. Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, Brian?
I mean, it would have been really helpful for us to know exactly what their review process was if Dean had accepted an explanation. We would have had that then. We would have known. I mean, because the speculation now is that they didn't review, all these different things happen, but they have mics set up right. They could have. I mean, it doesn't seem like it was the on-field ref's initial call. He was clearly in the replay, looking at the play, right? It's off. It's not off. It's off the ball, right? So it's not. He's focused on the play where the ball is live, and so he's not looking at the specific incident. And it looked like it was called by the fourth official or the linesman down the way, which is going to have to happen in that
Yeah.
situation. You can't have the on-field ref looking at everything at all times, and he's got to be focused on the play where the ball is. The ball had left that part of the field at that point. There is an argument there that maybe it goes yellow and red if another ref that's further away is making the actual call and seeing an issue there. But at the same time, if we don't have an official explanation and VAR had looked at it in real time and said, "No, man, that his leg went high, there were studs up, and there's an explanation there."
So Willie P, shout out to him, put
Yeah.
a post about that. What was actually said.
Okay.
So I'll read it real quickly. The independent review panel consisting of a representative from the U.S. Soccer Federation, one representative of the Canadian Soccer Association, and one independent representative nominated by the Professional Referee Organization has denied Charlotte FC's appeal of the red card issued to midfielder Pep Biel for violent conduct in the 90th minute. So, I mean, okay, it doesn't go into too much depth, but it just says violent conduct. As a result, Charlotte's denial appeal, Biel is not eligible to play Charlotte next match against Orlando on November 1st. So, I mean, the only thing we have to go off of is, I guess, the same thing. Just it's violent conduct,
which it looked like it was. If you look at the replay, it definitely is there an argument to go yellow rather than red? Sure, but once the decision is kind of made that it's a red, I mean, it looks pretty violent. Like Pep is on the ground, the ball is nowhere to be seen. He's looking at Janssen. It looks pretty clear that he's looking at Janssen. Yes, is maybe the legs tangled when the foot is on the ground, but when you're looking up at a player and your leg goes high like that, I mean, it just doesn't look good. And it didn't make sense that that's like a natural situation to try to untangle your legs like that. Like it looks like he kicked him. Like it looks like that's what he was going for. The intention looked pretty clearly there. Janssen, I've seen a lot where it was a response to him stepping on Bial, but after watching the replay over and over, Janssen is looking at the play as a center back should in the box when the ball is live and close to the box. Like Janssen doesn't really look like he's involved with Bial at all. Now, leading up to that, Bial looked like he had been frustrated and getting like chippy with Janssen and other Orlando center backs, which is all props to them. You get in, Charlotte FC's players' heads, you chip with them. They're also down 2-0. I mean, Bial seemed like he was getting really frustrated in that game. He never really got involved. And I mean, you set yourself up for that kind of scenario to happen if you react that way. And for me, it looked like a pretty clear reaction.
Yeah. I mean, there were moments in that game where
Yeah.
we looked a little bit more positive.
Yeah.
Pep Biel was floating in centrally, trying to get a ball, put a good
Yeah.
ball into Abada,
Mhm.
right? So there were a few moments where
Yeah.
I saw, I'm like, okay, this is what he's here for, right? But
Yep.
unfortunately, it wasn't enough, right? And then to me, just going back on this red card, like it's a soft red at the end of the day,
Yeah.
but like you mentioned, Pep Biel gave the ref the
Yeah.
opportunity to make this
100%.
call, and that's what's truly the what's an issue here,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, as mad as Dean Smith is,
Yeah.
unfortunately, like that. As soon as I saw, it, I was like, this will not get overturned.
Yeah.
So
And that's actually that's one of my concerns as well. Just Pep Bial can't lose his head there. And I'm actually a little because I feel like the team really got after Ajimon when he lost his head on his late red against Miami when he stomped on the guy's foot. Kind of a similar situation in terms of just frustration during the game, and had a bad reaction in a play. A little bit different because it was like during a set piece, the play was dead and stepped on a guy. But also in this situation, the play was live, but ball was nowhere to be seen, and he reacts in a way. And so for I don't know, for it just seemed like for me, it was a really bad situation for a veteran player like that to have that kind of reaction in that moment. Because I mean, that could still, that could seal the deal on their season. He's been one I mean, between him and Bronico, probably the two most important players to this team right now in terms of just what they've been creating during their unbeaten stretch. So to
right.
have missing one of those two guys in terms of creating enough chances for throughout the course of the game is going to be pivotal. They got to make up those chances. So
Right. We talked about, in our preview episode to that first match,
yeah,
we talked about, the details, the moments,
yeah,
right? Of like, it's going to be few key moments that are going to determine which team comes out the best in this best out of three series, right? And, this is a small moment that plays a big, big deal overall in this, stretch, right? Where the game was already over. That's what's even more
yeah,
frustrating. Like it was done. Like,
yeah. Orlando was coasting.
yeah, okay, you lost. Cool. Let's regroup and go back at the bank. And
Yep.
boom, just a stupid red card. On the plus side, if there is a game three, he'll be available for that.
Yeah.
Right. But anything else you want to add to that, Sean?
We got to take it and use it as fire. Like, it happened. It's done. We can't sit here and be like,
Yeah.
what if? Now it's time for next man up. We do better. We had a great coach. He'll figure it out. We sit there and we go, we're going to give Pep one more game because he deserves it. So
Not
we're doing that.
perfect. Awesome. And then talking about moving on, let's talk a little bit about some of those tactical changes that we could see in this match. Obviously, we know for a fact now that Pep Biel isn't going to play. So when Dean Smith is looking at his squad, right? Talk to me a little bit about some of those changes that you could see. Obviously we'll see a change in the front three, but who would you like to replace Pep Biel in this starting lineup? And is there any other changes that you would do, Sean?
I want to see finally, I want to see Carroll and Ajimon back on the field together. I want to see Carroll drop back a little bit, Ajimon up front, and be able to Carroll to use his distribution we know he can do. He did a ton for us a season ago, not as much this year where he stayed up top, but he can do that. And I think that if we get him in there with Ajimon, they'll be menaces together. It's a big body running down defenses and a skillful passer that can get him the ball in between people. I think that's just, to me, that's the move that I would make. It's the obvious move to me. We've been here before. We haven't had Pep all season, and we have a good depth right now. Probably for the first time, we can say that in one of these podcasts. Like, we have depth. So that if that doesn't happen, I mean, there's the obvious things to bring on. We've got Yuri who can come in and play really, really well. But I'd want to see both of them on the field at the same time.
Nice. One thing I want to touch on a little bit, Brian. Caleb mentioned this, and I thought it was really good about playing Karol Swiderski at that right wing role, right? When he did it under Latanzio, he wanted him to be out wide.
Yeah.
When we're looking at Pep Biel as a right winger for Charlotte, he starts at the right, but he likes to float in centrally,
Yeah.
right? Because he's a playmaker type of player, right? And so not really a right winger, right? So that was a very interesting thing that he mentioned, right? That maybe under Dean Smith, playing him at the wing to start this game allows you to have Pep Biel up top, right? And so, or you could go with
Like Patrick
Vargas.
Ashimon, right? You're
Yeah,
talking, okay,
sorry. And then and you can put, sorry, and you can put Patrick
Yeah.
up top and have Karol Swiderski on the right. But I mean, there's multiple options. Talk to me about what you would do heading into this match.
Yeah, well, so what Caleb is describing there essentially is like you're talking about a position in right wing, but it's really about areas of the field that he's covering. The whole aim of him being right wing is not really to him play right wing like you said, really, but you're trying to get him around the top of the box on that right side. Like that's where his strongest suit is because then he's on his left foot there, able to launch in shots from that range, also able to launch in passes and create. So that's the whole idea is you'd have him be right wing, but really pushing inside, Burn going on the overlap on the outside on the right essentially Burn kind of then becomes the right winger in that scenario. I could totally see that be the situation that plays out. It would be a little bit different to what Dean has been doing most of the year, but not completely different to what he's been doing with Pep Bial outright.
Right.
Pep Bial goes central. So recent history would say that that seems like a pretty decent strategy and one that Dean could easily implement. Um, Really, I think the main other option he would probably implement is Vargas on the left, and then Abada switching over to the
Yeah.
right is probably the next opportunity. I would like to see Yuri Tavares. You mentioned him. I would like to see him from the start, but I don't think Dean puts him in that situation. It seems like right now down the stretch, Dean is like has a handful of guys and like ranking them in terms of trust, and it really seems like Yuri
Vargas is the,
Tavares is not
yeah.
quite there. Vargas is, and I mean, there's an argument for that in this situation. Vargas has the energy to go the stretch. And if Orlando starts really pushing them again with possession and start gaining control, Karol Swiderski on the right wing is not going to be super ideal. Like if he has to do a lot of defending and he gets pushed back and he gets stuck deep, Carroll's going to get super frustrated. He's going to start pouting and he's going to be like, he doesn't like to defend. Like, like right? I mean, he will. Like he'll put in the work. But when you make him do that much defending, and then he never gets forward and creating, and he has to do extra running to make up for the amount of like back and forth he would have to do on the right wing. He won't last 90 minutes. He'll be a 60-minute player, and you're not really putting him at that strength, his strength in that situation. So that's the one drawback. Now, if Orlando can't make that work and they don't have, they aren't able to establish as much control, which is going to be the key to the game regardless. Like Charlotte has to maintain control in this game.
Right.
They have to find a way to gain more of the ball when they're off the ball, not allow Orlando to push as far forward as they were doing. So all those things, regardless of where Carroll plays or if Carroll plays, like that has to be first and foremost. That has to happen. You have to get more control of the game.
Nice. Yeah. Speaking of more control, right? So we talked a little bit about that front three, but let's talk about that midfield trio. Would you make any changes there? I mean, if you look at it, all three guys in that midfield are just runners,
Yeah.
right? People that can cover a lot of space, right? I mean, Ashley Westwood was the player with the most distance covered, right?
Yep.
For Charlotte FC this season. Brant Bronico, you know what he can provide for you.
Yeah.
Similar thing to Urso. Would you guys make any changes there? Maybe, like you said, if Vargas does start as a winger with Abada, would you throw maybe Swiderski at the 10, or just keep Swiderski at the 9 and keep the same three that Dean's been running for recently?
Yeah, if Carroll's at the 9, you gotta find a way to have him not be isolated. Like so, whether that I mean, I think it's the same midfield three. I don't think he changes anything up on the back line or the midfield three personally. I can't imagine. I really don't think. I think Dean's gonna make one switch, and that's the Pep Bial switch. He's been very consistent so far down the stretch. But if Carroll's still at the 9, you gotta find a solution to him not be isolated. Whether that's Bronico staying higher up, whether that's the right wing replacement coming inside more to connect with Carroll. Again, it comes down to can you not be pushed back so deep so you can actually just allow other players to play alongside Carroll. But whatever the case may be, if Carroll's at the 9, he cannot be isolated like he was this last game. In that situation, you want Patrick Ajiman up top. That's way more in his skill set of what he can do. He's willing to take loose 50-50 balls and be 1v2 against two center backs, and he would be willing to fight for them all day. So I think that's kind of the scenario it comes down to. Like if you're in a situation where Carroll gets isolated, how quickly does Dean make that change?
Okay, awesome. Anything you want to add to that?
I hold the same three. Those guys have been the heart and soul of the team. I think this game is won by our
Yeah.
midfield this week. And I think you can't go away from three guys who've been just doing great for 5 straight games.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement with that. I wouldn't change that. One position I do also want to ask you about, right, is on that fullback, that
Mhm.
right back position, right? Obviously that was a target the first that first half in Orlando, right? They were going through that side with Tim Ream a lot.
Yeah.
Um, what can maybe Yera Uronen provide you that Tim Ream doesn't?
I mean, I think it would be the kind of the similar situation in terms of, I mean, because
He's a little
but
faster.
but at the same time, it's like if you get pushed back like that and they bring numbers forward, I mean, you have to stay back and defend regardless, right? So you have to stop the outlet from happening in the first place. Once the ball's in deep like that, and you've got both Dagger Dan and Facundo Torres on that right side, 2v1, and that's it, you're dead anyway. So it's already at that point, it's too late. So it's about how do you stop the outlet from happening in the first place? How does our midfield match up against Arujo in the mid right? And how do they build up from midfield to final third play? Because what was happening is they were building up. Facundo would get the ball on the right side, and then Dagger Dan would just crash forward, and Rafael Santos would crash forward from the left. So you then have 9 guys around the box. You have to prevent that situation from happening in the first place. I don't know if switching Urunen in for Ream prevents that outlet from developing in the first place. So you got to stop that from before. That's for me is going to be up on to the midfield and the wings. How can you prevent and pressure and stop those outlets from even getting to that point? Because that situation develops in the midfield. For me, it develops in the midfield, and then because once the ball gets there, you're done. So
Fair enough.
I think you take Ream off, you lose a very valuable asset we've had these last few games, which is these wonderful over the top passes. These wonderful just switching of play, change of pace, across the field, finding the wide open man and being able to let everybody move around him. Uronen is a very good soccer player, but he cannot do the way Tim Ream does.
Right. I mean, we talked about him coming out of the lineup somewhat unfairly, right?
yeah,
I agree.
But, defensively, he's a guy that's been sound for us when he has played. So
yeah.
I just, to me, I was kind of curious to see maybe, if there's changes to make.
Yeah.
And I think this goes back into, and we'll touch on it a little bit now, right? Or just go full in on it, right? How Charlotte goes into this match, right? Because, you know, typically under Dean Smith, we don't hold a lot of possession.
Mm-mm.
We're a team
No.
that stays defensively compact
Yep.
and takes care of, scoring when we have those moments.
Yeah.
Right. Those last 5 matches, right, were a little bit of an anomaly to a degree because we were scoring 4 goals, 3 goals, right? Before that, through the whole season, it was very difficult for us to even get 2.
Yeah.
Right. So how would you guys approach kind of going into this match? Does Charlotte need to start with that intensity, trying to grab the ball, trying to create, trying to make something happen? Or does Charlotte kind of, make sure that, they're defensively compact and wait for those moments to happen in the game?
So while they didn't have possession, and this is one of Dean's main points, is like we're gonna maintain control of the game off the ball, right? That's one of his pillars. And what they had been doing that was so successful, it didn't like it wasn't like they had possession in other games and then didn't in against Orlando. They never really had possession, like you said. But what they did was they didn't get overrun. And against Orlando, it really seemed like there was a lot of times when Orlando got tons of numbers forward and kind of overran Charlotte for large portions of the game. You can't allow, I mean, that's where they lost control. It wasn't losing control in terms of possession, it was losing control in terms of where the game was being played. And the game was being played in and around their own box a lot of the time. And that's how Orlando enjoyed so much possession. And then they could take more risks because they're in Charlotte's half and they're deep in Charlotte's zone. And so that was kind of what happened. So you got to prevent that from happening. So
You
mean,
made that
staying
comment
compact-
in Orlando, right?
Yeah.
Where like the first 15 minutes, like there were certain plays where
Yeah.
like they had 8, 9 players inside
Yeah.
the 18 for us, or like within that final third.
Yep, exactly. And just the 2 center backs at midfield, and that was it. Everybody else was pushed way high, way forward. So you got to be able to prevent that. Actually, tracking back, this is just kind of a wild card thought when you were talking about Urunen, but I mean, what would be interesting to me is like if there's and if Dean, depending on how much Dean trusts the scenario, but I could totally see to help match up on that side if Urunen played in a left wing kind of position and kind of had, I mean, just I'm just going to throw this out there as a wild card, but if you had Reem and Urunen on that left side together with up matching up against Dagerdan and Facundo Torres, I could totally see that being a situation that benefits if you had Urunen just stay up high. I don't know if he's necessarily a bad replacement, for one of those wing positions compared to some of the other wingers that Charlotte has. Just throwing it out there as as
The
an
argument,
idea.
the argument's there to be made. It is 100% there to be made. He's played good enough this season where getting back on the field is not something that we can all just like wipe off.
Mhm.
But I think that we're going to look for a high press counterattacking football. Like we've got to play our game, and at home, that's what we've done successfully. I swear, sometimes we just give them the ball just so we can counterattack. I've watched it happen at home a couple of times.
Yeah.
I think that, and that usually leads to possession because they shrink back, and now we're able to move into their side and we play the game on the right side of the field. We got to take their game plan and turn it around and put it back on them.
Awesome. And then let's touch a little bit also. I mean, this is going to be Charlotte FC's first home playoff match ever, right? So, I mean, they're probably expecting 40, 50,000 people, I would say, at the bank, right? So, on the positive side, right, you have a game at home to recoup, to push for game 3. We know that when the bank is electric, like there's no other atmosphere like it, right? At least in MLS, or there probably is something similar, right?
Yeah.
But just the point is that, like players can get up to that and play really well and be backed by a strong fan base. The opposite side of that is maybe what we saw a little bit in Orlando, which I'm a little afraid of, is that the occasion may get to people. And if the occasion gets to some of these players, then we have an issue because, we won't be able to play like Dean Smith said, like just go out there and play football, right?
Mhm.
Enjoy your game.
That's why we have it, Dean Smith, right? We have that. He recognized that happened in Orlando. He's working on it all week. I guarantee you, to where these guys are going to come out and not be starstruck, not be not prepared for the moment. They'll be ready for the moment, especially here at home. I think the fans will will them on. I mean, we're going to have probably 3x the fans that they had there, and they were loud. The stream for Orlando was loud, and I expect Charlotte to be louder. I think that they'll thrive off of this moment this time because Dean will be ready for it. Saying that, I think it's a little bit more tough to be ready for the big moment not at your home. It's easier to prepare when you're home for these big moments.
Yeah. I mean, I think we'll find out in the first 10 minutes, right? It's
Yeah.
really how do they start? Because I mean, if they get pushed back like they did in Orlando, I mean, it gets hard to get over that hump at that point because you're like, oh man, we got pushed back again. We got beat in the scenario again. Now we got, now we're fighting the uphill battle again. So it's about taking the game to them and, running downhill out of the gate. So whether it's off the ball, on the ball, just kind of like running downhill and, forcing the play a little bit towards Orlando. I mean, if you can do that out of the gate, first 10 minutes, it'll only, I mean, the fans will vibe behind that and then it'll kind of snowball right from there. So that's really the key, I think, for the Charlotte. They need to come out and start quick and just take the momentum back.
Nice. Yeah. Take the momentum back. That's the perfect way of putting it.
Yep.
Because Orlando's coming into this confident, right?
Yeah.
They win it secure the next playoff game, or if they lose, they have another home match that they can go and beat us, right? So that's the difficult part, right? So it'll definitely be interesting, but I mean, from an excitement standpoint, we're happy that we get to see a home playoff game, right? Which is something that we didn't see last year, right? And
We've never seen ever.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And I actually went around and I did some content with Ally as well, and so asked people about the game. So it's pretty cool seeing the perspective of just people that are really hardcore into the game, or people that are just like, oh, what's Charlotte FC like?
I turned on sports radio the other day. I love WFNZ, but I turned it on and the guys on there are like, there's just nothing good to talk about in Charlotte. And I'm like, yes, there is. There's literally a home playoff game for a Charlotte professional sports team on Friday.
That's insane.
They're sitting there going like, the Panthers suck, the Hornets suck, and the Hornets are always injured. And I'm just like, dude, talk about the one positive thing we've got. We've got an amazing venue going to be filled with fans on Friday night for the biggest game Charlotte's had in any sport in 5 years. Let's talk about it. Let's get people there. Let's get our team excited. I was pissed off driving.
Let's talk a little bit about this playoff was brought for us, through one of our sponsors heading into Orlando, the Thompson. And so, if you guys don't know, Thompson is a nonprofit that helps a lot of families, right, that have kids with maybe some mental issues and a lot of other things. And before we get into them, I want to play this quick video. So, Cisco, do you have it ready?
One second.
1 second.
Shout out Cisco.
Yeah, he's making everything happen for us.
For almost 140 years, Thompson Child and Family Focus has served the most vulnerable in our community. Today, with a big heart, Thompson, our dedicated team, and the donors who support our mission continue to build a foundation for transforming the lives of children at risk. We believe that changing lives changes everything, and that positive change radiates across families and throughout communities. Each life we transform makes an impact, in turn, making our community stronger. Every day, the life-altering services and care Thompson provides make an extraordinary difference, helping our neighbors to heal and thrive. Our educated, trustworthy, and passionate staff deliver a wide range of evidence-based practices, including early childhood programs to inspire education, provide behavioral therapy, and encourage healthy development. The work we do makes all the difference in the world to the children, families, and communities we serve. Join us as Thompson continues to transform lives and lead the way toward a future where our ultimate vision has come true. All children healthy, all families thriving, all communities strong. Thompson Child and Family Focus. Changing lives changes everything.
Awesome. And shout out to Thompson. Obviously, like we mentioned it in our preview match in Orlando, we like partnering up with people that are doing great things in the community. And Sean, you can speak a little bit on them as well, right? I mean, you've been working with them for a while, right? Volunteering, right? And you actually introduced me to them as
Yeah,
well.
I love this charity, man. When I first moved to Charlotte, a big problem that Charlotte had was we were 50th out of 50 major cities in upward mobility. And Thompson set out about, I think, 6 years ago to change that. Now, in a recent study done in the last 6 months, we are 38th. And a big part of our movement is some of the programs Thompson does. This counseling for families, making sure the home unit stays together and they provide that all at no cost to these families. They provide early childhood education at no cost to multiple families. They're doing such good stuff in this community to really help combat that thing and make Charlotte a place where if you were born in poverty, you can get out of that. You can make your own life for yourself, and they'll give you the tools to help that out at a young age.
Nice. I love that. I mean, and also they're going to be doing something very cool this weekend, right? At the Charlotte FC match, you'll be able to, if you give to their to online, you'll be able to get one of the collectible scarves that they've produced, which is pretty cool. It's got the Thompson logo, it's got the Charlotte FC logo, right? And so not only that, but they will be giving, so through your donation online, you'll get a scarf, and then they'll also provide a scarf to a kid that's going in that is under one of their programs. So it's really cool what they're doing here in the Charlotte area. They'll be at the tailgate tomorrow as well. So look out for them. Go over there, go make a donation. I mean, make an impact in the community. I think that's something important. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to kind of touch on you. I mean, you mentioned the family support, right? I mean, for me, I mean, I had issues growing up, but I always had my family and support that was there to to get me through it. And I think that's one of the key things. Like Thompson Group has been there, figuring out a way to get family support there, whether it's financial need, whether it's time, and those are the things that are oftentimes lacking. And then when those aren't lacking, the sky can be the limit. And I think that's what Thompson is really trying to provide. And I'm all for that.
100%. Yeah. I mean,
The kids playing soccer on the scarves are pretty cool too, man.
yeah, they are. They are. The colors. We're actually wearing these in Orlando, and someone was like, "Why are you guys supporting Orlando?" I'm like, "No. Let's
Chill.
let me show you what these guys are actually doing," which is pretty cool. Speaking of Orlando, I mean, we had good trip. So we took a lot of our top bin crew out there.
Yeah.
We had a good time. So we'll touch a little bit on that as well. It was my first time in that stadium, right? And so talking to people heading into it, people were like, yeah, it's not the greatest. And I was like, we had been in Orlando for a day. Then I'm like, dude, Orlando is great. I was like, I love the city. It's nice. We went, played a little Top Golf action. So we got a vlog coming out very soon. So stay on the lookout for that. Some funny stuff, some stuff that like you get to see more of the other side of the Top Bing crew, which is pretty cool, But when we were headed into the when we were heading to park to the game, right? One thing that really stood out to me was like people were trying to get us to park at their houses for like $20. It was really sketch, and I was like they would like try to stop us. And Cisco, I know people can't see you, but they can hear you. Tell me a little bit about your experience, right? Actually, before you do that, I want Brian to tell you guys about Cisco's experience.
He was quite frustrated. I've never seen Cisco quite so on tilt. He's usually a really even keel guy, but I mean, when we finally figured out which lot we were supposed to go to, his walk into the stadium there was a lot of huffing and puffing. He was pretty pissed. He was pretty pissed. Just like the amount of times we were just kind of like being wrangled, guys were just walking around the street, just like wrangling people up, trying to get their cars parked in the street. It was just kind of a wild experience to me.
Nice.
And Cisco was pretty pissed about it.
What triggered you so much about this experience, Cisco?
Those kids had no reason to be out there in these construction vests trying to get us, acting like they were working for the team. They was gonna send us to their grandma's backyard. Like it was just.
Tell me this made it on the blog.
Oh, it definitely made it on the blog because we were just so surprised at how like this got under his skin. So it's pretty funny. So
when the police didn't know what was going on, we asked the
Nobody
police
knew,
officer what the
really.
law was. Nobody seemed to know. Even the workers, because the officer was absolutely working,
Yeah.
unless he had a fake cop outfit on.
Nah,
But-
Close to Halloween.
a lot of people in Orlando be lying. We figured that out too. Directions, if they knew people.
yup, stars that they say they know that
Yeah,
they
Yeah.
don't.
They did not know.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, just experience away matches just really makes me value
Yeah.
Charlotte FC, the Charlotte comms that allow us to cover the team,
Yeah.
the first class facility that we have at Bank of America, right? So they make it very easy for us to cover this team, right?
Yeah.
When we go to other places, it's very easy for me to notice, dang, we have it really good at home. I'm glad I'm not covering another team somewhere else. I get to come to Charlotte FC and we try to do a bang up job here, but we also get the pathway has been laid for us,
Yeah.
right? So we work really hard, but you also need that pathway.
Yeah.
So nice. All right, moving on. Last thing I want to do is let's do some score predictions for this match. Obviously, I mean, if you say we lose, right, we're going home, right? So like the season is over. Right. So I'll start off with you, Sean.
I think that we'll start off a little slow and we'll pick it up. I think we end regular time 1-1 and win in penalties.
Win
that would
in
be
penalties.
intense.
That
That'd be
would be
intense.
insane.
It sounds just like Charlotte to make it as tense as possible. We'll have 100 shots on goal. One will go in, and then penalties will go fine.
Nice. Who's scoring the 1-1?
Bronico or Westwood. Midfield changes the game.
Dang, Bronico. Imagine.
Second goal against Orlando.
Okay. Okay, fair.
Nice.
Brian?
I think Charlotte wins 2-1. I don't think they can keep the clean sheet as good as Kalina has been this year. I do think Orlando has the firepower to get at least one past Charlotte, but I think Charlotte comes away 2-1.
Does Facundo make it 4-for-4?
I mean, I'd say that's a strong possibility. He's definitely gonna be up there and trying to make things happen. He's a great player when he's on. Nice.
And who's scoring the goals for you?
I mean, I'll go Facundo for the Orlando one, and then I think Patrick Ajimon gets one, and then I like the idea of Bronico getting one. I think Bronico's getting one as well. I think he needs a bounce back game because he, for me, has really been the strongest player for Charlotte FC down the stretch there, And him kind of not being a factor in Orlando, I think he's gonna be fighting to really make make an impact in this one.
I owe him his roses, man. I rode him so hard the first season he was at Charlotte FC about how he shouldn't be playing and how he shouldn't start. And now I look at it and I'm like, we would be nowhere without him over the last 5 games, over the last season, really. He's been the heart and soul. You see him do the promo today. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Shout out to our team, the promo teams.
Dude, they're getting us hype, bro.
The content has been just pouring in.
100%.
How do you work? Like I can't work because I just like my phone rings. I'm like, oh, I gotta look at that now. Like it's been incredible. No, I think Monaco is gonna be big time.
Nice. Cisco, we'll let you do a little score prediction as well.
25-0.
No, Jesus. I think we're gonna win, but I think it's gonna be like a 1-0 game.
Okay.
If anything, it's gonna be a pretty close game.
We're grinding our teeth. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because when we play at home, it's different. It's a whole different Charlotte.
Yeah.
We're defending our base. But yeah, that's what I think.
So with me, I think I'm gonna go with so we went in hot, and so I was like, okay, if we're going in hot, so we'll probably do well this match, and we stunk, right? Now we go in not looking great, missing a key player, right? And so not as confident. And when we go into those, we typically tend to do better. So I'm gonna go with a 3-0 Charlotte FC win against Orlando.
Who you got scoring?
Swiderski double.
Love it.
Clip this right now, right? First guy to score 2 goals ever at the bank for Charlotte FC was Karol Swiderski. So it's only right that he scores our first 2 ever goals at a playoff home match. So
that's nice,
right? So I like it. And then I think I'm going to throw in a Malanda header in there as well. He started the season off with a goal. Let's end the home match with a goal from him as well. So, obviously, I mean, we have everything to play for this weekend, so the team has to win, right?
Do or die.
Do or die, right? So with that said, Sean, where can everybody find you?
I'm on Instagram, Sean Gartley. Treat your neighbors well, guys.
Is that your slogan now?
Dude, I just with everything going on in the next couple of weeks, election stuff like that. Just be nice to people. Just be nice to people.
That's his presidential slogan. Be nice to people. I love it. I love it. Brian, where can we find you at?
Yeah, y'all can find me on Twitter at Mauer Media, and you can also find all my written content at topin90.com.
I love it. And you know where to find us, guys. We got some great content coming out Friday, and we'll be at the game tomorrow. So let's hope for a Charlotte FC win. Everybody pack the bank. Everybody needs to be there this Friday night. There's no better place in Charlotte to be Friday night than at the bank. So see you there. Go.
Nice.